It would not.
literally an explosion. No matter whatever kind of thinking you have, it would shrink a little bit at the very least.
Hold up, let me fucking get this article back up. Hold the fuck up.
Not in mass.
Hey, Soup, stop.
How is it gonna
You two stop it right now.
No,
Stop.
Death, no, fuck off.
I need you to record this.
I'm
I
already
want
recording.
to record this. This will be funny. Unless
Sander, they've
Velvet
started. They can't stop.
I need
Hold
to
up.
record it. And they seem like they stopped right now.
No,
we
he's
paused.
preparing.
Yeah.
He's preparing to go to a Super.
Yeah, he's shoot, Kyle Canning right now.
Literally, I just need more of this. It's honestly like gives me life.
Just haven't read it.
on. I'm getting extremely when I have a game open.
Death, your mic is so weird.
Oh yeah, Soup. Are you talking
Yeah.
about in here or in game as well?
No, just in here. It's not seeming like that right now, but it was a couple seconds ago.
Oh, by
He's
the
saying
way,
it
that
was
because of
lagging a
lag
bit.
Of Overwolf.
Yeah.
Overwolf's launching because that's my recording software. I have
Oh.
a thing on it. Yeah, I have to record this for later use.
Yeah, make some memes out of it.
That's the later use. I'm gonna have to give it to Velvet later.
Bro, what am I gonna... You're gonna have to give me something to do. You can't just give it to me and say, do something with this.
Memes.
But I'm
It
not a
will shrink.
mastermind.
You
I
are
need to
correct.
know what you want to make
It
a
will
meme out
shrink,
of.
but it is not going to just collapse into a black hole. It's not
Right.
just going to suddenly collapse.
Where's
But,
my stuff
okay,
for
So
Overwolf's
how are black holes
recording?
made then, should I ask?
When a star is massive enough, again, we're looking 15 at the least, upper toward 20, plus solar mass, it has enough mass that it collapses into that singularity. You need enough mass to do so, and our sun does not have nearly enough mass.
No.
Yes.
No, but that's the thing, is that I wasn't arguing that our sun would. I was saying an average star.
And the sun is an average star.
It is an average star, but I doubt you could go to an astronomer and say, if a star were 3 times the size of our sun, would it not be average?
No, because the thing is, you need a star roughly 15 to 20 times the size of our sun to get that. Furthermore,
Right, so
if you
that's
look
the
at all the
remaining
elements,
mass.
white dwarf, black dwarf, red dwarf, neutron star, pulsar, all this stuff, black hole is one of many, many stellar remnants. The average star does not collapse into a black hole, or we'd be seeing a lot more black holes in our universe.
That's because nuclear fusion doesn't just stop.
But it does eventually when it runs out of fuel. And for those stars that run out of that fuel and nuclear fusion stops and the star dies, there's a lot of
There we
other
go.
things that it
My
can form
recording is
depending
going
on
good.
its mass. And a black hole is not the most plentiful of those.
But it's not when it's dying, a star is continually dying, always.
Yes, because it's burning
Right.
through its fuel.
I'm saying, and
If you wanna get
it's
technical,
gone.
yeah.
It's gone
So
through
looking at
its
star life
stages,
cycle, you're looking at the end of the life cycle,
right?
colloquially.
Where it's lost a lot of its mass. This song's really good, by the way.
But again, they're looking at the mass before the solar remnant
Okay.
form. Not at the beginning
Really
of the life
this
cycle,
bad,
at
man.
the end.
Our star is classified differently depending on what life cycle they're in.
They have the same life cycle. It's what happens at the end that matters.
Yeah.
Every star has the same life cycle. It has nuclear fusion, burns through that, and eventually at the end is where it differs depending on the mass. The main part of the life cycle is the same for each star.
So the lack of nuclear fusion, or I should say the transfer of fuel sources, is a less powerful explosion. But the mass is also different at that point because it's changing the atoms into not other atoms. Is it
Other
atoms?
atoms. Yeah, that's what nuclear fusion is. You're smashing two atoms.
Right, because
combining them.
you're getting rid of
Hydrogen,
protons and
helium to heavier elements.
right.
That's how we got our current universe.
Right. So when we're changing into those other fuels, the leftovers, that's after we've lost a bunch of mass on a star. That is. So I'm not at this point. I'm not saying the solar remnant and this. What I'm saying at this point, this is different than what I was saying a few minutes ago. At this point, I'm not saying that the solar remnant has to form from, or can't form from a. How am I supposed to? How am I trying to? What am I trying to say? Hold on.
Something about science.
Yeah, science words, quasars. Okay, so a solar remnant is formed, right? But you don't have any links for me of how solar winds blow away those crusts, or sorry, those layers. You have for me solar remnants in size, but to me, with the information that you've given
But here's
me,
my question: why is the
I
burden
can
of proof always on me?
conclude-
I have provided multiple links, and you
Right.
provided like why am I the one always providing the proof? This is where you're getting the moving the goalpost. I
But
provide
I'm
proof,
using
and then you change your
own
argument.
Proof. I'm using your own proof.
Well, now you're asking me to give you another link. That's asking me to find more proof.
No, not more proof. See, because technically, nothing that you've provided has said anything wrong with what I've said.
Then why do you continue to dispute? See, this is where, again, there were like several of us in here. Like, what the hell are you trying to say? What is your point? Because you keep changing it. Like,
But
it's
the same argument.
literally. It doesn't seem like it. You need to phrase it better then, because it is.
Yeah,
I am trying. I
I'm
feel like
bad
I'm
with
trying to
words.
argue
I
5
got hit
different
by a car.
points.
Okay. Let's go through. I'll show you what my brain process is for the links you've provided. That'll make a lot more sense, rather than me just continuing the argument. I feel like I should have done that earlier. Let me see here.
Let's go ahead and stop recording because, like, my
Oh, I'm
computer
almost
doesn't have enough.
there. Okay, here we go.
Rule 3 says you have to ask for. Jinx is literally an icon, man.
What?
Y'all are fine if I'm like yeeting this out on Twitch, right?
I don't give a shit.
I don't have. You don't have my permission. I'm just joking.
Gucci.
Okay, let's see here.
I don't have a Twitch, so this won't. I can't. I'll have to sign up because.
Okay, so your
thing
first
doesn't
link.
like-
Your first link. I already argued with that one. That was a hypothetical scenario in which they didn't have proof for, and that would be the.
They're literally using
40
that
solar
for
mass.
No, that's the first
Correct.
link. No, that was an actual situation. That was observational data.
Right. It was saying that it's possible that a bigger star that more than 40 solar masses might be needed to create a black hole. However, that's taking into a scenario of there's a cluster of stars in the Whirlund 1, and they're all the same age because they're all formed from the same the same
But
situation.
the point of that was, again, that not all
But-
stars that can form black holes do. That was the entire point of what I was trying to make there. That was
Right.
just one piece of evidence supplying that.
However, the factual information they use in that is there is a magnetar star in the cluster, and they didn't witness it happen. There's just a magnetar star in that cluster, and they're like, oh, because of the age of all of these stars, this one has to be this mass because that determines its lifetime, right? But they didn't take into account a migrant star joining the cluster.
And where is there any proof that there's a migrant star joining this cluster?
Does the migrant star have a
magnetar.
green card?
The magnetar, see, it could have, it didn't have to have a shorter lifetime if it came from somewhere else.
But where would it? Where's any proof of that?
But it's the same
You
argument
can't
though.
just say,
Where's
"Well,
the
what
proof
if?
that
What
that was
if?
there?
What if?" You can't just say, "What if this came from something?" That's completely. You have no
What-
factual
what-
basis to back that up with.
But stars migrate.
Yes and no. Like our sun stays in the same place relative
But
to
there
the center
are
as it
stars
orbits
that
around the
migrate.
Milky Way. Yes, but where's the proof that one did? You can't
But
just
that's-
bring in hypotheticals and then use that
But
to
I'm
support an
saying
argument when there's no evidence to
their
support that.
argument is saying it is factual that this star came from this cluster, but that's not the case. There's a chance it came from elsewhere. I'm not saying the chance is
these
high.
guys do this for a living, and I guarantee you the reason it's not included is because it's a low enough chance that that's not happening. You can't
you
take
have
every hypothetical into account.
If you have
Because
a
then
migrant star hit a big cluster of stars, it will slow
But
it
you
down.
cannot. That does not. You do not have enough to build an argument off of that. You have
I know, but I'm
no
saying
evidence that joined.
But it's
You can't
what
say
what
if.
they're
That's
arguing for
literally
is
like saying-
hypothetical. It's not theoretical. What they're arguing for is hypothetical. Because of that fact, because they didn't have proof that that star came from that cluster. The way you're arguing,
That's
you're
like
saying
saying
it
that
is not
evolution is
physically possible.
theoretical, or it is completely hypothetical because we have no proof that we've seen it occur. But like that's not
No, but there is.
That's
proof.
like saying that gravity is hypothetical because we can't physically see gravity.
But
You
gravity
can't
has
take
been measured.
every single hypotheticality into account, or else you never get anything concrete.
But you can't. You have to have proof to say things that are proven.
But we don't. What proof do we have of? Hold on, you need something here.
No. So
What proof-
all I'm saying
Prior
is
to
that
gravitational
that
waves, we
link
had no proof
does not have.
of gravity, but it was 100% accepted because it is observed. We had no physical proof. We had not yet detected gravitational waves, but we had seen it. We had seen its effects, and it was accepted as fact, even though we had not yet detected gravitational waves, because the chance that it was not right was so small, it was irrelevant.
Yeah.
What you're doing here is you're bringing this completely small, like irrelevant possibility.
No, I'm going through I'm addressing that is not a fact. It's not a theory because they don't have proof.
You want to get technical? Everything we know about the solar life cycle and black holes is virtually.
Maybe I should
we have
click
not
on the
seen
link.
it all.
Let me click on the link and tell you what.
Have you not read the article?
I
If
did.
you haven't
That's
read
what
it,
I'm saying.
like it mentions migrant stars nowhere in there. If that was a possibility that could impact their calculations, they would mention it there.
Yeah, unless someone forgot or someone thought,
They
oh,
do
that's
this for a
unlikely.
living.
It's unlikely. It is very rare. In fact, it's probably not the case, but it's possible.
At that point, you said it's very likely not the case. So what's the point of arguing it?
Because it's possible that it was the case. I don't
If you
know.
take every possibility into account in every possible scenario, you're never going to get anywhere because you're going to spend so much time arguing hypotheticalities.
It will if you're trying to find the truth.
What are you two nerds on about?
No.
What is going on?
Okay, look. Let me look. Okay. To reach their conclusions. Oh wait, let me make sure this is the right paragraph.
They
I don't
need
wanna
to
read
prove
something
who
that's
is
not
more
important.
knowledgeable.
Oh my god, fucking nerds.
It's like a right
Just
of
let it happen.
Look, there's this thing called right click and mute. You don't like it, you can mute
Just
it.
let it happen.
Or you can just leave the room. It literally takes half a second of effort.
It was a fucking joke. Relax, buddy. Don't get your fucking.
I'm just entertained.
Jesus, it was a fucking joke. Relax.
So's your life.
You're
Ah,
fucking
Oh.
Oh, shit, dude.
hitting home hard.
Fuck.
Straight.
Jesus, did I strike a nerve? Fuck.
I guess you could argue that they don't know that those stars are 3.5. I guess you could argue that there's no proof that the stars are that old. But
Exactly.
it's
And then you go
just-
into the
it's the
hypothetical.
way-
Like, that's my point, though. You can
It's
make
the
an
way
argument
that
about
they
everything.
Perfect.
And
It's the
again,
way that
you're
they
also this is another logical fallacy. I can't remember what it is, but you're taking one of the many pieces of evidence I've offered, and you're just cherry picking it, looking for things that could possibly. That's another argumentative fallacy.
When I first saw it, I was like, okay, maybe I'm wrong, and I read through it. It was just, it seems, if you read the article, it seems kind of like they didn't even take it into account, the fact that it could have been a migrant star. That's what bothered me.
Do they need to? Is the chance of that even significant enough for them to consider
when you
that? And I'm willing to bet that they considered that and decided it wasn't enough of a possibility to warrant considering.
What
Well, it's
star are
kind
we
of
even
strange.
talking about?
So it's the start. If you want the, I will tell you the start. It is ESO 0831. It's a magnetar in the
Elder
Westerland
Scrolls
1.
Online?
Yeah, is this D&D or
European Southern
something?
Observatory.
Okay, so the reason why I cherry picked this piece of information is because it's weird. This star, the way that they describe it, the mass that it must have had is not the way they phrase it. It doesn't sound like it was anywhere near the what? My brother. Okay. It doesn't sound like it was on average the same size as the other stars. So you have this one extremely large star just sitting in the middle of all these other tinier stars, and they just
That's called a star
conclude
cluster.
they're like, oh, this star's in this cluster, it must be the same age. It's like the way
Sam, you were right. It's a legit debate about science. I'm legit. That's all.
Dude, I'm enjoying every moment of it.
Sam's like,
I mean,
can't
and
focus
I'm
right.
gonna be real. I am scouring Google right now, but I can find zero. I found things on migrant planets, but I found nothing about migrant stars.
they're not that common
Exactly. So why
But
even bring it up?
because it's not impossible. It's just
Well,
it's
again,
weird.
I have been searching for
I'm-
the past like 4 minutes
Okay.
with a bunch of different search terms on Google for
Okay, so-
anything related to migrant stars, and I have found
So migrant star might not
zero
be the right
links.
term. Migrant star might not be the right term, but that's how I processed it in my brain. It's a star on the moon. You know what I mean? If there was a migrant star that hit this cluster, it would slow down. That's what my brain process is. If there was a migrant star that hit this cluster, it would definitely slow down. This tiny cluster has more than 100 stars in it.
Define slow down.
Well, when you have, as you know, in gravity, when you have two objects, they often enter into orbit when they're passing each other, if the circumstances are just right, or if it would collide, or in this case, I could imagine it happening. Maybe not being in a perfect orbit, maybe it will crash, but after passing literally hundreds of stars in this tiny cluster, I guess it wouldn't be tiny, but in comparison, that's what they're saying is tiny cluster. I would definitely, its velocity would be changed in a manner that its acceleration of it turning would slow it down.
It's velocity, man. You heard him.
Velocity
What?
of stars.
But the stars, they move within the arms. Like the thing I linked right there,
Oh,
it
no.
mentions.
You didn't hear about his
The thing
velocity?
I linked right there mentions that stars move within, at least for spiral galaxies, within the arms of the spiral, right? For other galaxies, be it a ring or a regular, they move around the galactic center in whatever position they're in. They don't just
Right.
move between arms of the spiral or move within the galaxy. That doesn't happen.
They do if
All
they
right,
enter.
I'm gonna be real with you. I've taken 2 college-level astronomy courses, and I have never heard anything about migrant stars. I assumed you were right because you seem to know what you were talking about, and so I went to look it up, and I found nothing.
But
I've
it's
never heard anything
technically
that's supposed to.
possible. If two stars come into contact with each other,
And
or
it's
if a star comes into
technically
contact
possible
with
to
a
build
black
Dyson
hole,
sphere. It doesn't mean
it
it's
can
going
shoot
to happen.
off. But there's so many stars. You know what I mean?
Again, but
It's
if I have not been able to find anything at all that talks about anything about this idea of migrant stars in 5 minutes of Google search with various terms, again, it takes me like 10, 20 seconds maybe to throw a search term in, and then I don't know how much I subscribe to this theory of this existing at all.
Well, if you wouldn't go that route, then I couldn't find anything on remnant stars.
Star, bro,
with
type stellar
solar
remnants
winds.
into Google right
With
now.
with
Type
solar
stellar
winds.
remnants into Google right
Actually, why
With
do you
solar
lash
winds.
out against the
That was
vegan
only the one search term I tried, so I only tried that one search term. So, but what I'm arguing is that when a star comes, you've seen those videos, right? When stars are in contact with black holes and they're going super fast, right? If one were to come in, just like how comets come into
But that's only going to happen in the case of like something like the Milky Way and the Andromeda Galaxy colliding, like they're going to in a few billion years. And
Okay,
even then,
then this
space
theory,
has a density
two
of
stars
like
orbiting
space
each other
has a density
and one
of like
supernova.
0.2 atoms per cubic. the chances of something hitting are astronomically fucking small.
True, but when you have literally more than trillions of stars, astronomically small means it happens.
Very, very rarely, to the point where it's insignificant to consider.
Right. Unless you are taking in a scenario of an extremely specific location.
Again, I don't buy this. Like, this is so insignificant. I found nothing on it.
If
And
two
there's no
stars are
argument for it.
orbiting each other and one supernovas, meaning it loses quite a bit of its mass, the other star will no longer orbit it, and it will lose its
It depends how big that star is. Because if the star will retain
Exactly.
some of its mass,
See, what you said
and
is
in
it
which
depends
case,
on what
why
size
would
it is.
that star not just start orbiting the other star or the remnant? If you have two Class A
Right.
stars, or whatever,
But
orbiting,
if they're
one a
tying
Class
each
B
other
orbiting
towards
a
each
Class
other.
A, and that Class A, which I don't think it would, because I think it's too big generally, but if that Class A collapses into a white dwarf, why would the white dwarf not star?
No, but it would have lost a lot of its mass if it's supernovaed.
Velvet,
I don't. Yes, this is no.
It's like
I mean-
slingshotting. You know how we slingshotted off the moon to get back to Earth?
Yeah, but we had to provide thrust to break that gravitational pull. A star's not going to just provide its own thrust. Like, yeah, we slingshot, but we had to hit the orbit at a specific point to get into that point. I believe a bit.
Yeah.
A star doesn't have thrusters.
Yeah, but stars can explode. I.e., one of the two things that have mass is not lost. Just
I know, but I still don't see how this is relevant. Like this, it just seems like such a
If an
small
old
possibility that you are, again, this is like you're tearing apart an argument on the basis of the smallest possible technicality that it could not be true.
but possible.
But is it worth considering as a solid possibility? It's
In
possible that
this
I could walk
scenario,
outside and
I would
find $5
argue
million.
that it is. No.
I would argue that it isn't.
No, see, I would argue that it is because it had this clusters that seemed to be the same age and about the same size, except
I would still argue that it isn't.
there's one dead star in that cluster. Only
Second here, let me find it.
I was just saying this.
Larger stars burn mass more quickly.
Yeah,
And again,
no,
this would have been an extremely massive star.
right.
So it
But
would
the
have
other
burned
stars weren't
mass.
extremely. But the other stars weren't extremely massive.
Were or weren't? I can't tell which one you're
Oh
saying.
my god, are you guys
Exactly.
still
So the
fucking
larger
arguing
star
about
would have
that?
burned out faster than burns mass at a much faster
They're
rate.
size to each other. It'd be weird. Like it's not impossible. It's of it being that much larger that it burns out that much is closer. I'm not saying it's definitely more likely for that to happen. It's closer, but it's doesn't knock out the possibility of what I'm calling a migrant.
I found it. See that as a relative more out relative far. Cool. How is that the
So-
main argument? On whether or not turn into a
Why the
black
fuck are
hole,
you guys still
and
talking
still
about it?
it won't because an average star is Earth-sized, which is not nearly enough to form a
Pump
black.
up it
Right.
up.
If
Wow,
a
your feet
star
up.
3 times bigger than ours and stopped exploding.
Are
So
you guys still arguing about this? It's been
literally
like an
what the
hour.
NASA website you and I both agree on this part.
And
Then-
I know websites overgeneralizing there because these stellar remnant after that
The
supernova where it
remaining
sheds most of its mass.
Let me
And
rephrase
then
this.
in order
The
to get
remaining
a
mass
red giant collapsing, whatever. It has to have a mass of masses at the very least. So, and that's not at the beginning. That is before.
Right.
No.
And that end cycle event, how does that?
With the session of fusion.
You know, I really
it's
like
not like
Destiny
wait
Hudson
session.
Stars. It's really
Oh
good.
wait, hold on. My brain's thinking.
It's really good cereal. I fucking love that cereal. Don't you like cereal too,
Fusion
Jackie?
stops. It collapses.
Mhm.
Energy. If it
Oh,
collapses,
fuck
makes
yeah,
it
dude.
explode.
I
Oh
fucking.
crap! I forgot my coffee. Real bad.
That's right, right?
Did you say
I didn't
coffee?
hear you.
So the secession of fusion collapses the star, and that energy makes
yes
it
and no.
supernova.
There's more to it from there. It depends how big it is. The session of fusion, at the session of fusion, our sun doesn't actually collapse initially. It expands from a red
Ours
giant
would-
at the session of fusion.
Yeah, it would be a red giant.
And then for a supernova, well, let's see here. Let me find a proper.
I'm back.
Back, Jaggy. Enjoy the debate.
Yeah, welcome to
debates
Astrophysics.
are
So
fun. You're
there's
still having
enough,
this debate,
enough
Jaggy.
stuff
It's
to
been like
raise
2
electron
hours.
fusion. It goes runaway nuclear fusion. So the fusion speeds
Oh
up, which disrupts it, and then it basically explodes outward in a supernova, which ejects the vast majority of its.
Guys, still having this debate.
And what?
Why are
what
you still
causes-
listening if it bothers you?
What? Wait, hold on.
No,
What
it
causes?
doesn't
I got
bother
my
me.
new phone. My new phone shipped today.
Oh,
Tell me about your phone. Tell
Why?
me all
I
about it. I got a
I
Samsung
would have thought that this would have been over like
S9.
an hour
Oh,
ago.
yes.
All right, and if you don't like it, Green, there's this thing called muting, and it takes about 2
No,
fucking seconds.
I know. I have
And
no
also,
problem
Green,
with the
get
debate.
off if you're not listening to this debate. This is the
It's-
debate room right now.
No, it's not. It's
I
the
said right
fucking
now.
music room.
Yeah, and
Bro,
like half the
just shut
people in here
up.
are listening and have indicated interest in it. So both us and them would appreciate it if more toward the other people would stop interjecting for no reason other than you don't like the fact that it's occurring.
Green, they're just calling you purple. Don't listen to them.
Ah!
No, that
Oh,
last one was
dude,
directed more at
This
you,
looks
Jack.
so cool. It's purple and every. Oh
Please
my
go back
god. Oh, the new
I
UI.
wanna fucking hit you for that.
Dude, this looks so sick as fuck.
Wait, hold on. Let me pull something up. I think I have an idea.
My dick's hard.
Bro, shut up.
Yeah, it's really for the majority of people in here, it's not appreciated.
What's not appreciated?
My
I'm
dick
not gonna
being
call it
hard?
out. Jaggy's consistent interruptions with no intention other than to disrupt it and draw attention away.
What?
I mean,
I didn't even know what was
move to
going on
another
here.
channel
I
if
just
you
got
guys
my
are
new
concerned
phone.
about other people doc.
Uh-huh.
Oh, thank you.
I like how actually brought the teacher out, disrupted, dragged attention away.
I mean, literally we're in the middle of talking about this, and then someone suddenly starts screaming out their new phone, and like one other person joins in, literally
It's
for
a
no
cool
other reason.
phone. I don't know what to say. He asked about it, so I started explaining,
You have
dude.
KOTOR in your
I found a
background.
link that
That'd
proves
make
my
it
point.
spicy. But is your
Alright,
source
like it.
trustworthy?
And again,
Eddie?
what is the point you're trying to make here?
It's that it's the same thing.
That an average star is going to collapse? Because again, I can provide like
No,
3 or 4 that
if
disagree.
nuclear fusion stopped, or sorry, if nuclear explosion stopped on a star and like not just stopped, but like ended, like didn't continue. That's what I was trying to say. I don't know if I clarified that or made that clear, but what I meant was if nuclear explosions no longer existed, it would become a black hole.
It depends on the mass. Again,
Right. And that's what you're saying. And I'm saying it would only have to be 3 sizes, and you're saying that it would have to be more, but my argument for why it wouldn't have to be more is right here.
and I've provided a link that says the opposite.
But it doesn't say the opposite. Oh,
It
except
literally
the
does.
first link. The first link does, yeah. Sorry.
Ladies, let's just all
But-
agree that neutron stars are the
The
best
whole
stars.
point
Shut up,
the whole
Green.
point of that link
No, you-
is to give the idea that it's possible that the theories might need to have their numbers adjusted, but it doesn't necessarily say.
And where's the source? Put it in chat. I want to see it.
No, this is the first link.
Which one?
No, so this first, what I'm saying right now,
Link it again, because there's like 10 links have been linked.
the very first one, the 40 times solar sized star link.
Hold on, let me pull that ISO back up, or ESO.
Actually, want to be moved.
I'd
It's
still
it's
just like
written
to
in
say
a manner that is
Honestly, with the
suggesting that it should be.
with the number, yeah, then let's do that, please.
Actually, let's move to podcast for everyone who wants to move. and
Move
listen.
me.
Yeah, I was
Wait.
gonna say this is really not
Do
the
you
kind of
want
discussion
us
you should be
To be
having in
moved
music room.
there because Jinx will move all
Oh
of
my
us.
god, we can
that
have a
once-
conversation anywhere. Like,
Oh my
I
you
know.
need
Bro,
to
y'all
calm your
can stay
fucking
in the
just
shit.
need to
general
learn how
chat.
to shut
No.
up.
To be fair, the people in here were listening until like the past 2
You
minutes.
guys are the only ones that have a fucking problem.
Yeah.
I
Sorry,
don't have a
Velvet.
problem. This is my point is you're gonna
Mute
be
them if
talking.
you don't want to hear them, dude.
They
That's
just
all
mute
it
us.
takes.
How many times am I gonna say that I am enjoying listening?
Then why do you keep
And moving on
interrupting?
Because interesting. Corrupt. Oh, and now they're leaving. Not my fault. Oof.
How do I switch over there?
Just request like Jinx to. Oh, okay, never mind. Jinx already did it. Well, I was certainly something. Holy.
Wait, you have podcasts, Velvet. You can move yourself.
Live is
Actually,
a
we
chat.
can't.
What?
We don't have access to the live channel.
Yeah, only like a couple people have access to the live channel.
I thought podcasts had that. Now, Oni, I think was, yeah.
The only problem now is that you have to have push to talk on. So
Yeah, I know.
anyone
I
who
to
had
go
voice
change that
activation.
setting.
Yeah.
That's why I wasn't talking. Let's see here.
Waits patiently.
Yeah, okay, so this is my argument. So let me just find the right sentence.
Fucking hell. Had no ammo. But they literally, that article literally says, raises the question of how massive. They're basically insinuating that they have to be even more massive to form a black hole.
Right, but they're not necessarily saying that it can't form a black hole at or below
They're not
40.
talking about the requirements to form in the minimum. They're talking about the maximum. It even says in there, the stars with masses between 10 and 25 solar masses would form neutron stars, and those above 25, so that's higher than the number that I gave, would produce black hole. Because like the vast majority of the mass is again lost in like the supernova or red giants. Like the sun to this date has only lost 0.05% of its solar mass due to solar wind.
Yeah.
The mass majority is lost either from bleed off because of that same thing during the red giant stage, or because of nova / supernova.
Right, and let me pull this up. It said it on the link. Hold on.
would honestly jump into the debate if I had enough knowledge on the topic.
Okay. This is on space.com. I'll give you the link in a second, but oh, my internet's crap right now.
My internet's not lagging out,
Oh
right?
yeah, coding's the same. Only.
My internet totally just died. It's like, ah, snap, it just failed. I'm like, yeah, you don't say. So, first thing, now I want to have the other part because this part of the argument is pretty much pointless. So,
Two signs for nerds. Fight it out. Nice. Where are the nerds? They're not speaking.
okay. So, in the case of a red giant,
Yes.
this is if you search up what makes a red giant expand, this brings additional hydrogen into the zone where the temperature and pressure are adequate to cause fusion to resume in a shell around the core. So that's what's causing the red giant
Yes.
to expand is fusion. It's nuclear explosions again.
Yes.
Okay, and then on a supernova, that's just clearly nuclear explosions.
It's
that's
runaway
causing-
nuclear fusion. Yeah.
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 Which could not happen if fusion no longer existed.
Well, it ends with the cessation of fusion. Again, runaway nuclear fusion to the point where it explodes, at which point there's a cessation of nuclear fusion until it collapses into a neutron star, at which point that's a separate entity which has its own set of fusion.
Right. So what I'm saying
But red
is
giant, again,
not-
a second set of reactions are up, ending the cessation of the original nuclear fusion. Colloquially and generally, it's just referred to as the cessation of fusion. That's what
Right.
they teach in schools generally. That's what
Yeah.
they'll teach up until more advanced, death of star life cycle mechanics.
And I'm not arguing with that. What I'm saying is if fusion just didn't exist anymore, like as the laws of physics changed and fusion no longer was an acceptable way for heat to be transferred into different types of energies, to transfer its energies, I should say, it would turn into a black hole.
I'm saying it wouldn't, because you have to compress the mass to that point.
Right,
And
but
again,
it's
it would bleed off mass, but it would not just suddenly turn into a black hole.
not instantaneously, partially because of how time is framed, but referenced. I mean, but it's already fighting its collapse. It literally, when you search up how black hole is made, it's because its nuclear explosions are fighting the collapse.
And again, they say that a star with a mass of 3 solar masses
Yes. So just 3 times the size of our sun. Which I'm sure if you talk to the right people would argue that it's still an average sized star.
But again, you have to have that's assuming the cessation with confusion. Normally, that's not going to happen.
No, it would never happen if fusion no longer existed. Like
Which is 3 solar masses is a pretty significant amount. I would consider that above average.
I don't know.
That's
I don't have a chart measurement of all the different stars, so I can't really say for certain. But I did see on some websites that it was even bigger than 3 times for the average.
I would like a source
I gave you one of them.
for this larger than 3 times the average.
Yeah, less than 3 times larger, meaning close to.
Let me search for has a link here.
Well, the NASA site I saw said that it was our sun's an average size, but the way that they phrase it, you don't actually know how close it is to the exact average. It just says, yeah, it's close enough to the average, pretty much. It's the way
Well,
it's phrased.
Given how we tend to measure things, we tend to go with stuff that we know. Like the AU is 1 distance from the sun to Earth. I'm fairly certain, given that we measure in solar masses, 1 solar mass is considered roughly average.
Yeah, but considering how big some of the stars get, like Betelgeuse.
But yes, but again, I'd still say that's relatively average. Or not, sorry, relatively above average.
Okay.
3.
Then, in comparison to Betelgeuse, a star 3 times the size of our sun, I would still consider average.
But in that frame of reference, you have to consider stars much, much smaller than our sun.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. I don't have the measurements of all the different sizes of stars, so I can't say for certain if our star is.
So then, again, by what you're going with earlier with the migratory star theory, can we not then just say that you can't consider that?
All right, fine. Then but at that point, then we're having ESO fight NASA on their theories. And technically, it is a hypothesis.
Technically, just about everything
both
we
of
know
them
is a
are.
hypothesis because we can't measure anything hardly.
Well,
at least
yeah.
fundamental forces.
Gravity we can.
Well, no, not hypothesis. They're considered theories because they're generally accepted and basically all but proven for a lot of.
Yeah, that's
very
the thing
different than
with
hypothesis.
theories. Well, no, that scenario I would consider it a hypothesis because they don't.
Which one?
The first link. Just because they're making the assumption that a star has the same lifespan
They never
as the
said it
ones
was
around it.
I don't know. I would say because it's generally accepted as a theory that stars in the same cluster are the same age. So they're going off of a theory. So I would say technically it is a hypothesis. It's just one isolated thing. It's not like a general.
Yeah, if they had multiple of them,
but
then
I would say it is a well enough backed up hypothesis that I would agree with it.
If they had more examples,
the logic behind it is solid.
I won't argue with that, but if they had more examples, then I'd be more willing to believe it.
But the thing is, a lot of things, especially like this, it's so statistically unlikely to have more examples.
For a magnetar to happen, but they do have other types of stars that they can change into if they're more massive.
Wait, say more massive than what? Because you got neutron stars and pulsars, and generally, if it's bigger than a neutron star, it's gonna be a black hole.
Yeah.
Generally.
All I was really saying is it wasn't necessarily disproving that a black hole couldn't form from 3 solar masses of a star. In that last respect, not my total argument.
Like here's another one again for at least for the sun and for several other stars, and I would argue, except for more extremely massive ones for most of them, it'll just start to contract. Like at least within our lifetime, you're not just gonna have. Hold up, I'm trying to figure something out here in game. I'm still in game. I just already am in an accident because there was a fire like 10 feet away that had invisible flames that did damage to me, and I thought he shot me.
You want to hear some conflicting evidence?
For what?
What percent of stars are bigger than the sun? And the answer it gives, 88% of all stars are smaller than the sun.
Yep.
How does that make the sun the average size?
You know, because we like to scale things to our understanding. Like I said, we use AU for a lot of things, smaller than light years, and that's distance from the sun to Earth. So we use solar masses and set the sun as average because it's our sun, and we're humans. And, you know, we like to go off our understanding.
Because I was gonna look for the percent, because I figured this would be a good argument. If I could find the percent of stars that are bigger than the sun, if we could assume that a percent, well, that'd be kind of a hard thing to, that'd pretty much just be a straight assumption. Sorry, I'm thinking out loud. A good chunk of all the stars would turn into black holes if
what?
nuclear fusion
Well,
stopped
again, like
existing.
if you look at this one, you have to reach a certain, you have to contract after a certain, like for at least the sun, it won't do anything for many, many hundreds of thousands of years until it's cooled down enough and contracted enough to be considered a white dwarf. I
Yeah.
don't recall if our sun's supposed to go white dwarf or not. I think it might be. But it's going to take a long ass time.
So a little bit, so part of what my argument of what I was saying was wrong, but not the black hole idea, I guess, just the size.
Well, again, I wasn't
requirement.
arguing that it wouldn't. I was arguing that the average star wouldn't. And furthermore, obviously about stellar masses. Though I think you were still talking about secession and fusion rather than just natural death.
Yeah.
Which
Like,
I presumed you were talking about natural death. However, again,
No.
the main focus of the argument was on what
that's why I wanted to
the
talk in
average
voice
general
chat, because I
star
don't think that was
was.
coming across. I'm bad with words sometimes, so
As I did. Half right, half wrong.
at least I'm not as dumb as you think I am.
No, I wasn't dumb. I didn't think you were dumb. It was frustrating because I felt like I was just throwing all this stuff at you, and you were still just like moving the goalposts around and just changing things up. I'm like, what am I trying to argue here?
No, I was reading the stuff you were giving me. I didn't want to seem like an idiot.
Yeah, see, again, I never like that's something they teach you. Like I'm certain you've seen in chat. I'm studying to be a teacher. Like you never assume a kid's stupid. What frustrated me was it felt like I was giving you stuff, and you were just either ignoring it or was what it felt like. And again, I feel like a good chunk of that can be remedied by being in voice chat. It felt like you were just either ignoring it or just asking for more info and changing your argument and expecting me to just change all of a sudden. And I'm just like, what am I being asked here? That was my frustration with it.
I was listening. I was just getting apple juice. The stupid push to talk is
No,
not
I
helpful.
got you. Yeah, I know. Can we ban push to talk in this Discord?
I advise against that.
What about a
I know,
temporary
that's
ban?
good, yeah.
Gets the live chat
No!
change too. Voice
I
activation.
only use push to talk. I cannot use the other one because every other noise in the background.
Here,
would
have something more
speak
lighthearted.
My mind.
Oh, well, you
Enough
have to
yelling,
turn off
more
your,
laughing.
for yourself.
Would speak my might.
No, what we were saying was just have it be an allowable action in the chat. Because I know I was hit by a car. Give me a break.
I said by a cartoon.
I was conscious the whole time somehow.
Dude, I swear, I almost got hit by a car yesterday. Some dumbass going fucking like, what was it, like 20 over on the highway in almost whiteout conditions. Fucking idiot.
Some people just are dumb, man.
Dude, I swear, all right. The worst winter driving
Old
experience I've had,
people.
right? Dead ass. So I'm driving through this neighborhood, right? And the speed limit's like 30. And this guy's dead ass going like 10. Now it's like evening, so it's not fully dark yet. The last snow we had was several days ago, so the roads have been plowed and are clear. And this guy's going like 10. So I'm like up behind him, sort of close, just because it's hard to not go, it's hard to go consistently below 10.
Yeah.
And so at some point, it feels like he slows down even more, rolls down the window, and just gives me the finger out the window. I was like, what in the hell are you doing? Like, it's not even icy anymore. Again, the road's basically completely clear. Last snow was several days ago. And you're going a third of the speed limit through like this paved road. It's not even like it's a back road with no shoulder. It's a paved road with curbs and everything between neighborhoods.
That's when you yell out, "Get your speedometer checked."
Well, I don't want to roll my window down because it's like fucking 15 degrees outside. But yeah, it was like, and he just gives me that finger. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
That's not. I will have to say though, the worst thing I've seen while driving is my friend was. I was not my friend, but this guy I was with at a school. We were at the same field experience. We were driving back down the highway, right? And you know how right before like an off ramp, it'll go out to like a third lane if it's a 2-lane highway, and there'll be a little bit of pavement after that off ramp.
Yeah.
So this guy passes a fucking semi truck in the off ramp lane. Like the semi truck's in the right lane, and this guy goes into the off ramp and tries to pass a semi, and he makes it, but like barely. And I'm like, you are going to get yourself killed.
Yeah. You see kind of dumb stuff like that when you ride a motorcycle a lot because.
Oh my god, some of the shit I've seen people do with motorcycles is so
Yeah,
stupid. Well, not with but two people driving motorcycles. No,
I'm
like
so
normal
getting one.
cars.
You can't stop
normal
me.
cars when they're around motorcycles, more like. Oh, we're full. We need some kicks on some AFK boys.
Wait, what happened to science?
We finished it.
I will be speaking
she
now.
was sort of not entirely incorrect on one part, and then I was misunderstanding another part.
Yeah, I was mostly just not clear.
That
what
was a
I was
nice
say.
53 minutes of science.
Yeah.
Velvet,
now
could you send me
kiss.
a link, please?